Hi, everyone. I'm Lindsey Reiser, and we begin this hour with the air of uneasiness and disbelief that hangs over Washington, D.C. The armed man accused of opening fire outside the security checkpoint at the White House Correspondents Dinner is in custody and expected in court tomorrow. The D.C. interim police chief says the alleged shooter, 31-year-old Cole Allen, was a guest at the Washington Hilton Hotel where the dinner was held. The shooting happened upstairs somewhat from the ballroom. It is my understanding from people inside that you go down a set of escalators, then there are magnetometers and metal detectors, then you go down a short staircase into the ballroom. Outside the magnetometers is where the incident unfolded. A Secret Service agent was hit by one of the shots and was released from the hospital early this morning. At this time, sources tell us he was hit with a buckshot from the suspect's shotgun blast. It's believed he did not take the full brunt of the blast. Secret Service returned gunfire during the ordeal, but the suspect was not hit. We're going to show you the frantic scene inside the ballroom shortly after those initial shots rang out. Two people inside the ballroom have told me that it was very clear to them what was happening, that shots were fired, but perhaps there up on the stage, it may not have been completely clear what was happening. We know President Trump was safely evacuated from the Correspondents' Dinner. Neither he nor anyone from his administration were hurt. And today, Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche said investigators believe the man was targeting officials from the administration. President Trump spoke from the White House late last night.
This was an event dedicated to freedom of speech that was supposed to bring together members of both parties with members of the press. And in a certain way it did, because the fact that they just unified, I saw a room that was just totally unified. It was in one way very beautiful, a very beautiful thing to see. A man charged a security checkpoint armed with multiple weapons. And he was taken down by some very brave members of Secret Service, and they acted very quickly.
Again, this is what we know about the suspect, identified right now as 31-year-old Cole Allen of Torrance, California. They say they have preliminary information that he was a guest at the hotel. As part of the probe into his motives, investigators are reviewing some writings from Allen found in the hotel room where he was staying. Let's bring in CBS News Chief White House Correspondent Nancy Cortez, who was outside the White House. Nancy, you were there at the dinner last night. You, like so many of our colleagues, jumped into action, reporting immediately on what you were seeing and hearing. So what did you see and hear?
Lindsey, it's so good to be with you today. Yeah, I was a few tables back from the stage, and so like a lot of people who were seated in the front of the room, we didn't hear the gunshots. So we weren't aware initially that anything was wrong. Our first indication was some men in black suits running up the aisle. And frankly, for the first few seconds, I thought they were waiters. In fact, I think there were some law enforcement officers who ran into waiters who were simply serving guests as they charged into the room. And you heard the clinking of plates falling. And so we thought initially there was some sort of incident with the service. But then we saw more and more law enforcement officers racing up the aisle straight towards the president. We were told, get down, and that's when everyone got under the tables. I was seated next to Dan Scavino, who is one of the president's longest-serving aides. He is the head of the president's personnel office, and his wife, and we were all under the table for a couple of minutes together before his security detail found him. They knew where he was sitting and whisked him out, and that's kind of what was taking place all across the ballroom as cabinet members and top White House officials were whisked out by their security details. After a few minutes, when it was clear that we were safe inside the ballroom, we got up and started working, but because the cell service is so spotty in that room, Lindsey, we were in a situation where we actually had less information inside the ballroom than a lot of people did outside the ballroom. And we sort of all sprung into action reporting on what we knew and what we could see, but it was difficult sometimes to get that information out because, that room historically has been such a challenge to get cell service. It's a couple of floors below ground level. In fact, at the start of the dinner, I actually turned my phone to airplane mode because I figured I just wasn't going to be able to get any messages out until after the dinner was over. So I clicked back on, and tried to get messages out as I could.
Well, and per your original point, Art, Matt Gutman is reporting there were Secret Service agents posing as wait staff who were in the room. So that also could have been part of that, which may have been unclear at the time. I mean, look, you've been to many of these. How does security typically work at these events? Is it always at this particular ballroom at the Hilton?
It has been in this particular ballroom at the Hilton for 50 years or so, and there's a pretty simple reason for that. This is a massive dinner. There were 2,600 guests invited last night, tickets paid for, and there are very few ballrooms in the city that can house a group of that size. But what that means is that the hotel itself is quite massive, and security officials have never believed that it was sort of logistically feasible to place magnetometers outside of the hotel for this event, because you have so many hotel guests going in and out. And you also have a lot of sort of onlookers who come for these events just to kind of gather near the door to see all the celebrities and officials who attend in their ball gowns and their tuxedos. And then, of course, in recent years, you've also had protesters gathered outside as well. So there was security outside the hotel, but the actual magnetometers that we all have to pass through every year to get into the ballroom, those are much closer to the ballroom itself. And that's why this individual, who apparently had thought to get a hotel room a couple of days ago so that he could walk in and out of the hotel undetected, that's why he was able to get so close to the ballroom itself.
And the president held a news conference after this happened, and we're hearing from him that he wants this to be rescheduled within 30 days. Do you have a feeling that something will change if and when that happens?
Well, it'll be interesting to see if and when that does happen. It is a difficult dinner to recreate. It is a year in the making, and it's unclear what the security situation would have to be to pull that off in such a short time frame. So we'll see if that is actually feasible. But it was notable that the president was so determined to go ahead with this dinner. We know that he stuck around for at least 45 minutes last night. He didn't want to leave because he was really hoping to come back out on stage. Another thing that he said last night was that this is part of the reason that he is building the White House ballroom, which you can't see because the portico behind me is in the way, but it's that construction site is only about 200 yards away. The problem is that even when that ballroom is completed, it is only designed to hold about 1,000 people. And as I said, this dinner typically attracts 2,000 people or more. So it would be difficult to hold this particular dinner in this new White House ballroom, even when it is constructed.
My last question, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. I'm doing okay. I think my family was probably more shaken up than I was, just watching this situation unfold on television. My daughter said it gave her flashbacks to January 6th, seeing what was happening on Capitol Hill, being worried that I was there and in harm's way. But as far as I'm concerned, it was pretty clear pretty quickly that we were safe in that ballroom, thanks to the heroics of the Secret Service and other law enforcement officers that were on the scene. And then we sort of transitioned into reporting mode pretty quickly. As you always do. Nancy Cortez, good to talk to you. Thank you. Thank you.
Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche appeared on Face the Nation this morning, and our Margaret Brennan asked him if there is any indication about motive or inspiration behind the shooting.
We're still looking into motivation, and that's something that hopefully we'll learn over the next couple of days. We do believe, based upon just a very preliminary start to understanding what happened, that he was targeting members of the administration. We don't have specifics beyond that kind of general statement from what we've learned so far, but we're actively talking to witnesses that knew him and talking to other individuals and going through the material that we've collected. So I expect that you will hear more about that in the coming days.
You mentioned a statement. Is the shooter, or alleged shooter, sharing details on what he was attempting to do? What makes you say it was a threat to administration officials writ large?
Just based on the evidence we've collected, not a statement from the suspect, okay. Just from from what we've learned in our preliminary investigation, he's not actively cooperating. I expect that he will be formally charged tomorrow morning in federal court in Washington, D.C., and we'll go from there.
So the Secret Service has said that the suspected gunman was staying in the hotel. He walked up to a security checkpoint with a shotgun, handgun, and multiple knives. How long had he been inside that hotel, and was there a security protocol for guests?
We're still understanding the security protocols that led to him being able to have firearms in that hotel. We do believe he was staying in the hotel in the days leading up to last night. We believe that he traveled by train from Los Angeles to Chicago and then from Chicago to Washington, D.C. As far as what happened with him coming down and breaching the perimeter, as you've seen from some videos that have already been released, he was apprehended and subdued feet away from breaking the perimeter. So we were all safe inside, and that's a testament to the Secret Service doing their job and to law enforcement doing exactly what we hope and expect them to do. And at time they train for this their entire careers, and many of them never actually see it happen in real time, and it happened last night, and they reacted exactly as they should have.
Let's bring in CBS News Homeland Security correspondent Nicole Sganga. So, Nicole, I saw the video of you under the table reporting with the tablecloth around you. I mean, that had to be a terrifying moment. What was going through your mind?
Yeah, it was absolutely surreal. Unfortunately, in this role as Homeland Security correspondent, I've covered a number of attempted shootings, mass shootings. Never thought we'd get that close to one. And I will say, from where we were seated in the back of the room, I was next to our national security contributor, Sam Vinograd. We really did hear the gunshots. There was no mistake in our mind what we were hearing. It was 4 to 6 gunshots in rapid succession, and immediately it was, please get under the table. And there were attendees sitting at the table with me who had witnessed the Butler assassination, who were saying to us, I can't believe this is happening again. But it's a testament to what we do that everyone immediately went into reporting mode and tried to figure out what exactly happened.
All right. Speaking of reporting mode, we're going to talk to Anna Schecter with a little bit more of what we know about the suspect. What we know about the suspect. But what do you know about his movements prior to the dinner?
Yeah, here's what we know about his movements. He left Los Angeles on Tuesday. He arrived Thursday in Chicago. He took a train between L.A. and Chicago. He then got on another train to Washington, D.C., checked into the hotel on Friday, and was able to move in his 2 firearms, the ones we have been talking about, the handgun as well as the shotgun, both legally purchased in the state of California, moved in with the rest of his luggage to his hotel room on the 10th floor. It is there that we believe he drafted an email, what we are referring to as his confession or his manifesto, to a small group of family members. We are told by law enforcement sources that that manifesto was scheduled to send out to family in the moments leading up to the attack. Somewhere between 8 p.m. and 8:30 p.m., the alleged gunman sent out this long letter to family members. In it, he said, administration officials, they are targets. So very clear here from the gunman's writings who he was planning to target at this dinner. We know right now that the U.S. attorney in D.C., Jeanine Pirro, has said there are 2 charges that he'll face, a weapons charge and, of course, assault on a U.S. Secret Service agent or federal law enforcement. And we do know that he opened fire. He was able to get 1 or 2 rounds off in the direction of the Secret Service agent, who took 1 round to his bulletproof vest. We are also told by law enforcement sources that that uniformed division officer, what we call Secret Service police, returned fire, although he did not hit the alleged gunman, and he discharged between 3 and 4 shots from his duty weapon. Now, it's a little unclear exactly how this individual would have smuggled the handgun and the shotgun in the hotel, but we should point out that the Washington Hilton has what Secret Service refers to as a dirty side and a clean side. So the clean side is inside of the Washington Hilton's downstairs basement ballroom. And what Secret Service creates is several security perimeters around the ballroom, magnetometers, canines, areas, security checkpoints where you have to go through in order to reach the dinner itself. But a lot of the concerns I'm hearing from law enforcement now is you had secretaries, cabinet officials, high-ranking officials who were milling around the lobby before then. Had this perpetrator wanted to inflict massive damage, certainly could have targeted the event up there. We also know, based on his social media, that he had been very outspoken politically, that he had previously attended a No Kings rally, was part of what is known as the Wide Awake group. We're told he is not being particularly cooperative with law enforcement right now. And as for Secret Service, they are reevaluating some of the president's schedule this week. Lindsay.
Okay, I want to ask you, because the president has been asked about this partial government shutdown in light of this and its effects on DHS. What should we know as it relates to that?
Yeah, I mean, look, right off the bat, Secret Service agents are being paid right now, but they are going to run out of money soon. I am told possibly in mid-May is when they will no longer be able to pay that personnel. As for Secret Service administrative staff, they did get some back pay, but it's unclear if they will continue to be paid. There are intelligence gathering gaps right now that exist within the Homeland Security apparatus as a result of this shutdown. We've reported on many of them. There are concerns about other big events coming up, namely the World Cup. We are around 40 days away from hosting dozens of games here in the United States. It's something that Secret Service has been working on, but is frankly concerned about as we are as they are limited in what they can do with the funding lapse. So I think you'll be hearing a lot more from Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen at the Department of Homeland Security about how crucial this funding is, and calling on Congress to do something now to reinstate that funding, particularly for federal law enforcement, which is preparing for a number of very large events, including the president's very active schedule.
Nicole Sganga, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, the situation, as we've been hearing, happened really quickly last night. So let's go ahead and take a look at the timeline from the second it started. At 8:34:29 p.m., so I'm giving you the hour, the minute, and the seconds, the security checkpoint is breached. If you want to follow along, you can look at the graphic at your screen. Just 4 seconds later, rapid fire of gunshots is heard. Around 2 seconds later, inside the ballroom, guests take cover. And then at around 8:34:40 p.m., security rushes in. Just 5 seconds after that, at 8:34:45 p.m., President Trump is evacuated. 3 minutes later, at 8:37 p.m., administration officials are escorted out. And about 30 minutes later, President Trump posts on social media praising Secret Service for the arrest, that he wanted to try to get the dinner restarted. But at 9:39:12 p.m., Weijia Jiang returns to the podium. So Weijia is not only our senior White House correspondent, she is the president of the White House Correspondents Association. She returned to the podium to announce the dinner has been canceled and they would be headed back to the White House for the news conference. So Anna Schecter, working the phones, as always, is the head of our crime and policing unit and is here now. What do we know about the suspect?
Well, we're learning a lot over the last few hours, putting together this picture of a very smart person, 31 years old, who studied engineering at Caltech, went on to get a master's at one of the state universities in Southern California there. One of several children in a family. He worked at a tutoring company, was a teacher, and won Teacher of the Month in December of 2024. So this is somebody highly intelligent. Now, CBS News, we have reviewed the email that he sent to family that officials are calling a manifesto as to the why he did it. And he was ranting about administration officials, but he also expressed a real awareness of what he was doing. This is not somebody who just, had a momentary breakdown. This was absolutely planned. You saw that with the purchase of the train tickets and this travel over a few days ahead of the White House Correspondents' dinner. And he knew that this would be an opportunity for him to carry out this act of violence. I imagine that his family is horrified. They are cooperating with investigators. Several of his family members said that he had spoken, used radical rhetoric and said he wanted to do something, essentially expressing mental illness. But I also want to put this piece out there. You know, people are exposed to so much social media, and it just seemed, I've reviewed his writings, the statements from his family, it seemed like this person had gotten radicalized just by being fed news and information slanted through a take on social media, and that led him to believe he was justified in a horrific and deadly act, which he wanted to carry out. In his writings, he also knew that he might not be successful, and that's why he wanted to share why he was doing it. One other thing, a member of his family called local police in Connecticut just before, as soon as they received this email with this manifesto, that's what officials are calling it. And so obviously the family wanted to take action immediately. They were disturbed by the writings that were sent.
So knowing that, what are investigators going to be combing through over the next few hours and days?
Oh, all of his electronic devices. So they've already swept his room at the hotel, his home in California. They have pulled the cell phone, laptop, anything else. You know, he was into gaming as well. So he had a big online footprint, even though, Lindsay, it's interesting, when we first got his name and date of birth, we got that last night from our sources, my law enforcement sources. So we knew who he was, and there wasn't a ton about him online, just this one link to his job at C2 tutoring. So even though he wasn't very outwardly present online, living, large online, he very much had sort of this quiet path towards radicalization that investigators are looking at.
Did he specifically mention the dinner in his writings?
So in that email, it does not explicitly say White House Correspondents Dinner. It does say, if this is a chance for me to get up close. So it was, I was reading between the lines. Maybe he thought it was explicit when he sent that email to his parents, but he never spelled out White House Correspondents Dinner. And if you think about it, our own colleagues are down there. You have thousands of people gathering in D.C. who aren't already there, especially for this dinner and for other parties. This is a real draw. And so think about how many people could have been hurt. And he even acknowledges that in his writings.
In what way? Apologetic or?
Yeah, kind of saying, I know that this might negatively affect him. For example, hotel security, they are not targets unless they shoot at me. He had thought deeply about this and taken the time to write this down and hit send and time the sending of the email to just before the attack. So this is absolutely premeditated. That's why I think we're going to see more charges coming down, because a prosecutor is going to be able to build this case based on this writing and all the prep that went into this.
Disturbing allegations. Anna Schecter, thank you.